Well, people will just be much happier if I'm not here. I have struggled on and off since I was a teenager with suicidal ideation, imposter syndrome, depression, anxiety, what a lot of my friends and family and colleagues have struggled with as well. Back in 2019, where all of that just kind of came to a head, it was a lot of feelings of worthlessness, feeling like I wasn't good enough for my bandmates or for my fans or for my wife, coping with a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms, especially touring 9 months of the year between two bands. I think it just really, it really got to me at one point where I ended up having a suicide attempt and ended up being in an institution in Salt Lake City for a couple of weeks just to see a therapist, see a psychiatrist, and really get back on my feet. All right, I was in the basement. I needed to get back on ground level. And since then, I've been in a much healthier place with my own therapist, and that helped me really kind of navigate mental health in a new way that's really led me to where I am today. It was, I think, it was scary for me, and then looking back on it, how scary it was for my family or my bandmates. It was definitely a difficult time, so I'm really grateful to be where I'm at now with my therapist. I see him weekly with all of these much healthier coping mechanisms. I was able to turn to exercise. Exercise helped me a ton, doing different creative projects and kind of getting out of my headspace a little bit, and also leaning on some of those people closest to me to try to really feel that connected sense of community, to really kind of get back on that ground level of good mental health, positive mental health. I've learned through therapy that I had a lot of unprocessed trauma as a kid, a lot of unprocessed stuff that really hadn't been, sorted through into my adulthood, and just it led to this domino effect of unhealthy coping. And at the time, just feel so lost in this pit of darkness. And for me, there's certain triggers for different people with suicidality, and for me personally, it's the feeling of being stuck. I feel like that's what triggers it the most. It's feeling like it's never going to get better. There's no way out, right? There's something happened and there's no recovery from this. There's no forgiveness. There's no redemption. It's just done. And when you feel stuck like that, for me, it's basically okay, well, there's one way out of this, and this is the only path forward. If there's no other way, this is the way I can end the pain, I can end the suffering. And that's just never a solution. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem, as a lot of people would say. And it impacts so much more than just you. The ripples go so wide when you do something like that. So I'm very fortunate that I didn't end up taking my own life, but it was a very dark period. Looking back on it now, I feel so much healthier than I was back then. And again, back then, just feeling so alone and isolated, and knowing that now that I wasn't. I had so many people I could reach out to, but when you're in that moment, it's really tough. So it's tough to sort through those emotions, come to a place where you're like, okay, I need help, and I'm willing to get it from the people closest to me and really communicate what I need and what I'm willing to give back to it, and do the work necessary to get past it. People will be better off if I'm gone. That's a thought, people with suicidality tend to have is, well, people will just be much happier if I'm not here. It tears you up inside because you feel so lost and so isolated. And if you were to vocalize that to people closest to you, they would tell you the opposite. They would tell you how crushed they would be and how absolutely abysmal life would be without you. And that's the sense of community that tries to help you come back. It's this switch of mentality that's this complete contradiction. It's a cognitive dissonance, really, where reality and what's going on in your brain are two separate things. And for some people, it's a chemical imbalance. I know a lot of people that have gotten through that by taking SSRIs or other forms of medication for treatment. I've known people that have gone alternate routes with exercise or other forms of medicine or other community building, and I think those are all valid. You got to find a solution that works for you personally, that's really going to help you get to that next step where you're not contemplating these things. I had dealt with a lot of chronic pain for a few years. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease back in 2015 with chronic Lyme, and have pretty much just dealt with it ever since. And so 2018, 2019, it was a really difficult period for me because I was dealing with chronic pain. I was dealing with intermarital problems. I was dealing with career problems as well, in terms of, not quite being where I wanted to be as a musician, and feeling like that was on me. I was like, well, am I not good enough to be in this band? Why do these guys not want me here? Am I not good enough to pursue this career? The catalyst for it was I had attached my identity to being a musician, my entire identity. And I think a lot of people do tend to do that. You say, okay, this is me. This is all that I am. I'm a musician. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter. I'm in this band. I'm Andrew from Dance Gavin Dance or Eidola, and this is my whole identity. It's my whole personality. And when you do that, what I learned through that inpatient program and my psychiatrist, my psychologist, you confine yourself to this box of being this person, right? And then if there's any cracks in the box or there's anything that's compromising that, you break down because it's your whole identity, it's your reality. And so you say, okay, well, my reality's crumbling and I don't have anything else outside of this. And so what else is there? What do I do with that information? I just, do I internalize it? Where do I take it? And for me at that moment, I'd attached myself so much to the identity, I would rather be dead than not be a musician. I'm very grateful that I've had the friends and family and support systems in place to get through that. And I think for a lot of people that's tough because, therapy's not cheap. I think anybody would tell you, but I will say it is worth it. Anything that you can do to really have that connectivity with a therapist and work forward however you can, I can't overstate how much that's helped me personally. Sometimes you have to try. So I have a lot of friends too that maybe they got the money together. They're like, okay, I'm going to go to therapy, and they try it with one therapist, and they're like, that sucks. Like I didn't like that. They didn't listen to my needs, or they gave me some weird advice. It didn't work. And so I stopped going after a couple of sessions. It's worthwhile to try and find, just like you would a partner or anything, you want to find the person that's right for you, the person that's going to help you with what you need. And that can take 2 or 3. For me, it took 3. I had an initial therapist that didn't quite work out, a second therapist that was okay for a while, and then my current therapist that I've been with for 3 years, weekly, just every week, logging in and meeting with him when I'm at home or logging in and doing telehealth on tour. And I think it's just incredible the type of connectivity you can have with a therapist for when you're in that mind state, that low mental health, contemplating suicide, or you're just overwhelmingly depressed. Sometimes the last thing you want to do is burden. Like you'll think, okay, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to burden my parents, or I don't want to burden my partner or my friends with this. They're already going through their own stuff. I just feel like a waste, right? And it just perpetuates. It snowballs. It dominoes from there. So having an unbiased third party like a therapist to sort all of this information out is crucial. I think it's so helpful, especially in today's world. It's so chaotic and so crazy. There's so much going on at any given time. It's a lot to take in. So if you're serious about getting a grip on your mental health, I would highly recommend trying to find someone that you can talk to that's an unbiased party like that you can really just vent and get it out, sort through the information, and get to a better place.
You